Hello there.
Hi everybody, how are you doing? Hope you're all well. Just want to thank you all off the bat for getting me to 5,000 subscribers. That is a serious milestone for the channel. I've had such amazing growth over the past year. It's been great to see that everybody is really feeling these reports and just all the other content that I like to produce. Initially I restarted my YouTube channel in I think it was around December 2020. Oh yeah, it's been about a year, it'll probably be about a year ago today. I'll have to see when my first trip report on the spiritual aspects of gaming video were uploaded. I think it was like December 2020. And I just thought I'd get back into it just because I needed another creative hobby. Well, I needed a creative hobby in general to do. And it ended up blossoming into this nice little community that we've got going on here. It's really flowered over the past year, which is awesome, and it's all thanks to you guys and your tremendous support. So
I can't thank you enough for your generosity.
yeah, it really is appreciated, and I loved all these questions that you gave me. This could end up being a very long video because there was a lot of in-depth questions, which is really heartwarming to see, because a big mission for me with this channel is to, oh god, ignore that Discord noise. I can't be asked to re-record it. I re-record these lines so much because I just stumble upon my words really badly. I don't know what's wrong with me. Back when I was doing YouTube in like the mid-2010s, I could just literally chat shit all the time, but now I seem to just stumble along when I'm recording this sort of stuff. But I'll do my best to keep it as coherent as possible. So yeah, going back to what I was saying before, fuck me, I'm well bad at sidetracking. I'm really pleased that everyone's asked a lot of profound and quite deeply personal and also insightful questions. It wasn't just like, what's your favorite brand of Doritos or some shit. It was like genuinely thoughtful, really interesting questions, and a lot of very metaphysically challenging questions. It's going to be very challenging to answer a lot of these that you've asked me, and I will be making videos about my thoughts on what the trip reports actually discuss, because I think you probably all noticed a big running theme with this channel with the reports. I mainly like to share the really big ones that I focus on is the metaphysical and spiritual implications of these high dose experiences and these ego deaths. What's it all pointing towards in regards to the nature of reality and consciousness, and etc. So yeah, that was I like to see a lot of them questions, but I also really appreciate just the general down to earth questions as well. I'm touched that you guys seem to really care and be interested in my life, which is pretty mad. When I used to do YouTube back in the day, when I was doing Attack on Titan Abridged and my autistic Let's Plays, it was just more of an outlet for me to occupy my time. But now I really feel that I've formed a bond with you guys, which is amazing. I love talking to you all on Instagram. Don't forget to follow the Instagram if you've not already. Yeah, just a shameless plug right there. But if you want to communicate with me more, go and follow me on there or the Facebook. I try and reply to everybody. So without further ado, let's get into it. Let me get comfy. I have a really bad habit of curling my knees up on my chair, a bit like L off Death Note. Well, I don't. Maybe it's because I've just bad habits from when I was younger. But that is one really annoying one. So now I'm just sitting normally because I don't want to destroy my knees. So the first question here is from Orange Buster, and I'm going to go for the Instagram questions first. He asks, I really love the game footage used for your videos. It might be obvious, but are these games that you play? I'm currently a virgin to psychedelics, but I have played Breath of the Wild on high doses of edibles. I bet that was sick. And the experiences have been absolutely euphoric and surreal. Are there any games that you play while tripping, or are there any games you suggest that are great for playing while tripping? Well, if you've been watching the videos ever since I replaced the visuals with video game footage, I try to handpick each game for each report. Not in a way where usually sometimes I try to relate the content of the the footage, the content of the text, because some of them link in. Like, I remember one of the videos I did about, I think it was one of the more of the freaky, because I use horror game footage for the more freaky, nightmarish reports, usually Datura or some other delirium. And I used footage from PT, or the Silent Hills teaser, and it was talking about fetuses, so I aligned the scene of the fetus in the sink, where he was talking about this woman puking a fetus out her mouth in the road. So I like to relate it in that way. But in general, relating to the question that you asked, more of the profound, positive, mystical experiences and etc., those sort of reports, all of those games are absolutely perfect to play whilst on psychedelics. That's why I choose them, because I think they're relaxing. Usually I try to pick the more like walking simulator type of ones, or experience type of games, such as Journey, Flower, Ho-Ho Come. Zelda games in general, I think, are very animistic and mystical in nature and are awesome to play whilst tripping. But I don't know, I've not actually tripped in properly in my own home in ages, because in my last report I shared, the most up-to-date one that regards to me was that 4-ACO DMT one, and that was just like one of the most profound ego death experiences I've ever had. It's completely changed my relationship with psychedelics and cannabis. And now I'm so sensitive to so like a lower dose for me is, say, like a very high dose for, say, a psychedelic newbie. And I'm not trying to blow my horn in any way. It's actually not a great positive. It means I can now no longer enjoy psychedelics recreationally. Well, for the most part, at least by myself. I used to just take, I don't know, mushies or acid or 2CB and just trip out in my room. But now, if I do that, I have to be prepared to basically go to some fucking weird metaphysical DMT sort of realms, because, I don't know, my brain has been rewired from using psychedelics so much for the past few years. But we'll get into that later. In regards to your question, yeah, the best games I'd say to play whilst tripping, Breath of the Wild's a perfect one. Yeah, as I said before, Journey, Ho-Ho Come, anything by that game company. Have a look at all my older have a look at all my trip reports of the more metaphysical, like spiritually profound ones, and just look at the games that I use on there. I list them all in the description as well. They're the best sort of games, I believe, to play whilst tripping. Relaxing ones, just generally, sometimes, yeah, upbeat or profound and touching games like that. Even stuff like Silent Hill can be played on psychedelics if you want to take your brain to some weird twisted realm. But it's just the fact that the music in them games is so trippy, it can be quite a
relaxing experience.
And yeah, I do play all of the games that I use for my videos. Sometimes I have to use footage from like World of Long Plays, and I link them in the description, but oftentimes it is me playing the game, because I'm absolutely obsessed with games. I played a big chunk of the games in existence, I'd say. I've played all the classics and etc. I think someone asked me what my favourite games are, so we'll save that till later. So, thank you for that question, Orange Buster. I hope that was a suffice answer. Fuck me, I've already been going on for 8 minutes. That's ridiculous. So the next one is from Rin. He says, I got a couple, bro. Would you ever try Datura? Have you ever watched Bleach? Do you have any interest in esotericism? Seeing as we're both from the UK, what is your ideal Tesco meal deal? Look forward to the video, lad. Nice one. So, first off, I probably wouldn't try Datura. I don't think my curiosity is that high for it. I don't think I would gain anything. If anything, I'd probably just impede my own personal spiritual development. There are some extremely twisted and unhealthy states of consciousness that, even though you are opening your mind up to other realms and other experiences that are completely foreign to you in your sober state, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to aid you in any personal development manner. So personally for me, I just don't have any interest in doing it unless I had maybe a low dose, but even then it just sounds extremely uncomfortable, and I'm probably very prone to being, I'm already prone to being paranoid on weed after like all these ego death experiences, so I can't even imagine how bad I'd be on Datura. But to anyone who does have the curiosity to do so and ends up doing it, then yeah, fair play, because you're a much braver person than I am. Then his next question was, have you ever watched Bleach? I've watched a bit of it when I was younger. I'm not really into anime anymore. I only really like a handful. I'll be talking about them later as well, because I swear someone asked me what my favourite animes are. But nah, I don't know. It's definitely, out of the big three back in the day of Naruto, One Piece and Bleach, I definitely enjoyed the episodes of Bleach more. I watched it up until they defeated Aizen, I think. And I read a bit of the Bleach manga back in the day, but unfortunately, shonen isn't really for me. I can't really get into anime as a rule anymore. It's very rare that I watch it. I only really rewatch my favourites that I can still hack. I just can't enjoy it anymore. I just don't enjoy the writing or the animation or anything really about it. But there were some parts about Bleach that I really enjoyed, and I see why people buzz off it. It's got some really cool creative aspects to it, so yeah, I have watched a bit of it to answer that. Do you have any interest in esotericism? So basically, yeah, I would say I'm interested in it, and I think it relates a lot to spirituality in a big way, because some people's genetics are fine-tuned to induce metaphysical and mystical experiences. If you look at some of these like spiritual gurus, their brain chemistry is structured in a way that's extremely different to quote-unquote normies, which means that they are more susceptible to having these experiences. You could have a normie meditate or for like 10 years straight, or like take loads of DMT, and he still wouldn't realise infinity, let's say. But then let's say, I don't know, like Ram Dass or something, he is chemically suitable for these experiences. Everyone's genetic makeup is different in a way that it means that some people have these experiences that are profound and deep and insightful, and then you can give, say, 5-MeO DMT to, say, someone whose their brain chemistry isn't wired up to produce these sort of mystical experiences. Then yeah, they won't end up realizing the deeper nature of reality and consciousness. So yeah, to paraphrase my answer to that, it is interesting, and I also think there's a scientific explanation for it, as well as a metaphysical explanation, which is that some people are more godlike, and it can come about through chemical and genetic differences in people's brains and bodies. So yeah, I think it is interesting. I'll probably look into it even more. So there obviously is a lot of credence to people having special abilities like Jesus and the Buddha, who are exceptionally gifted, consciously and genetically / biologically. So yeah, it is very interesting and something I need to look into more. Seeing as we're both from the UK, what is your ideal Tesco meal deal? I can't say I really go to Tesco anymore. I hate meal deals at shops. Like, the fucking sandwiches are so cheaply made, but some of them are alright, I guess. Tesco back in the day, I just used to get maybe that roast chicken salad, and then sushi, and then a smoothie. One of them like instant smoothies, because they're so expensive that you may as well whap them on your meal deal, because you're saving yourself bare pennies, lad. And you want to be saving yourself as many pennies in this late stage capitalist hellhole that we live in the UK. So yeah, thank you for them questions, Rin, and I hope you have a good day. The next question is from Bimbo Virgo, and she asks, what is your opinion on dill pickles, and what's your favourite music genre? So yeah, I love pickles, or gherkins, or whatever you want to call them. Absolutely peng munch right there. Something about it is just the crunch and the bitterness, the sourness. It's fucking quality. I'd probably have that in like every salad I have, and then in burgers there. It's prime scran indeed. So yeah, and I literally just scram them out of the jar as well. I mean, that is some naughty munch right there, I'd say. What's your favourite music genre? Difficult, I'd say, because it fluctuates all the time. But if you put a gun to my head, I'd probably say the whole genre of alternative rock, which I'd say it isn't. Alternative rock is different to just like rock, Because from rock, you've got all the different subgenres that shoot off from it, like classic rock, hard rock, blues rock. But alternative rock encompasses all these other different sort of like genres, such as noise rock and shoegaze and dream pop, and say indie rock, etc. So I'd say, and grunge. So I'd say alternative rock in general is my very favourite, as well as alternative metal. So yeah, my favourite bands are stuff like My Bloody Valentine and Radiohead, lol, and Deftones and Hum, Unfailure. There's just so many. You want to look at my Spotify that I link in my About section on the channel. That just has every single like song I really enjoy in my playlist called A Bit of Everything. And yeah, it is dominated a lot by alternative rock and metal. But I also absolutely love electronic music. I say electronic music, specifically DnB, drum bass, is my other absolute favourite genre. I mean, that's what basically sprung into life my usage of chemicals and substances, is going to raves and festivals and events that are oriented around DnB. I think it's the best music to dance to for me, and it's a big reason why I like it is because I'm like a big metalhead as well, and I just love fast, frenetic and energetic music like that. And drum and bass is really the electronic equivalent in a way. It's hard, it's heavy, and it's dark, and it can be quite ambient and atmospheric if you're going into more like dark liquid, like dark step drum and bass. So yeah, that's probably my second favourite genre of music. But I just love so much genre. I love so much genre me. So all the other genres I love. I love hip hop up to a point. I don't really like modern hip hop other than like say Kendrick Lamar and the odd other artists. I enjoy like Cass is Dead, the grime artist or UK rap artist. But for the most part, I don't really enjoy trap or UK hip hop or grime or drill or any of that really. I just enjoy. My favourite hip hop is the 90s stuff into the 2000s with like MF Doom. MF Doom's probably my favourite hip hop artist. For me, with hip hop, it has to. For me to enjoy it, it can't just be like. This is why I don't like the new stuff, is because a lot of the bass lines and drum loops are very derivative and homogenous. Nothing wrong with that, but for me personally, I just don't enjoy it. There has to be funky bass lines and interesting samples and instrumentals, which is why I enjoy like Kanye West's earlier stuff and Snoop Dogg's like debut album and Dr. Dre and all them, and The Far Side and Gangstar. That's all amazing. That's really up my alley because I love all the instrumentals and samples, and the beats complement the vocals so well, and it's just such a vibe, bro. And then other music I love is obviously I absolutely love like indie rock and classic rock like Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd, and then I just also love say like other electronic music like synth music. I love when there's like ethereal female vocals over synth music and electronic music, such as like Crystal Castles and that. I just love everything. You want to check out that A Bit of Everything's playlist of mine if you're interested in my listening habits. So yeah, thank you for the question. And next one is from Geo Vividi. Have you encountered dream police or abduction? Just so you know what I mean, here's my shortened dream. I have encountered them. I was inside a tall bus and I realised I was dreaming. I asked the people on the bus questions like, tell me where you go when I don't dream. What is this? They all looked at me like I was crossing the line, just asking too much. Anyway, these guys in dark clothes and gas masks appear through the crowd, the dream police, and I'm taken out of my body by them and shown some interesting things. This was too intense to feel like a dream anymore. They showed me Earth before humans and a giant white halo in the sky and stuff I can't remember. Is this a group of entities unique to my psyche, or is this an ongoing shared archetype? Now, I can't honestly say I've ever heard of this before, but that sounds amazingly interesting. I guess I'm going to have to start looking this up if there's any other sources or information regarding it. And no, I can't really say I've had been abducted in a dream before, but I have had some extremely strange dream experiences. I have them all the time. Like last night, I literally had this dream about I was playing Alan Wake before I went to bed, and then I had like this entire dream about my own version of Alan Wake, and it was in this weird like dreamscape MC Escher sort of world. I have a lot of them like extremely surreal landscapes in my dreams, and it's always like a twist on what I've been thinking about before bed or what's been dominating my mind during the day, and then it twists it into this weird like imaginative dream world with fantastical elements. And obviously sometimes there are some nightmarish aspects. I always dream about zombies and zombie apocalypses or like possession if it's like a nightmarish dream. Very strange. But no, I can't say I've been abducted, but I will look more into that. And if you can tell me any more about that geovividity, then I would appreciate that. It could be a shared archetype between people who have dreams like that. It's very possible. Next question is Nemil9. What are your top 5 bands? Interested because I'm also into prog and alt rock. Much love from Germany. Oh, this is so hard to answer because it always fluctuates. But yeah, my favourite band ever is Deftones. They're amazing. It's right up my alley. It's because it's a mixture of everything that I love: alternative metal, shoegaze, alt rock, prog rock. Just a bit of everything. I love bands that experiment with different styles. They're one of the bands I listen to the most all the time. I went to see this amazing band the other day who channels Deftones. They're called Loathe. They're probably my favourite heavy band at the minute. Other great bands that I enjoy are Nothing, the dream pop shoegaze band. Red. I just love that, mate. It's just so hard to say like what your top 5 bands are because it just changes all the time. Every single year it just shakes up. If I want to just groove to some cool metal, I put like Korn or Slipknot on. And yeah, just in general, I love all the classic bands. Like Pink Floyd is my favourite, say like classic rock band, closely followed by Led Zeppelin. They're just incredible to listen. They just take you to a psychedelic headspace when you listen to them sober. It's absolutely ethereal and ineffable in a way. It's incredible how they produce these amazing pieces of music, both lyrically and instrumentally. Oh, what's some other bands? I hate having to think off the top of my head like this because I love so many bands. Again, I'd recommend you to look on the Spotify playlist again, see what artists come up the most. A lot of them are some of my favourites, but some days I'm into some of us. Oh, Tool are great. I know they're a bit of a meme now, but yeah, they're awesome. They were like my pathway into prog rock for sure. Oh, I'm sorry I can't say what my top 5 are. It's just so difficult. Oh, I've let everybody down. Oh, and you said much love from Germany. That's cool. There's a lot of great German bands. Obviously, Rammstein goes hard. We fucking love them. That would be amazing to see them. The pyrotechnics look absolutely fat. Right. Next question is Slow Audio Wagon. I got a couple. What are your thoughts on the Life is Strange games, and what was the first psych you ever tried? Big congrats on 5k, by the way, man. It's great to see how far the channel has come in a short time. Oh, thank you very much, my friend. That means the world to me. So, yeah, what do I think on the Life is Strange games? That's funny you ask, because in the past, like, half a year or so, me and my girlfriend have been... she played and I watched the first Life is Strange game. And it was just so enjoyable. I really enjoyed it. You can call it, like, Life is Cringe, like some people enjoy calling it. And, yeah, it is pretty cringy in some places. But I really just enjoy that whole vibe of the college setting with the college rock sort of music in the background and everything. I love stuff like that. Wolf Alice were on the soundtrack to Before the Storm, which is really cool, and Mogwai as well. It's a really cool Scottish post-rock band. So that was absolutely right up my alley. I just loved the whole aspect of it. It really reminded me of like the 2000s teen movies. It was hella cool, bro. Yeah, I just love shit like that. And the story was quite fascinating as well, and I really enjoyed the characters. Me and my girlfriend enjoyed Before the Storm the most because we loved them two characters of Rachel and Chloe, and it was really interesting to see their little romance grow. It's probably my favourite game that centres on gay and lesbian characters. It was really, really cool, and it was quite emotional. Although I've been playing that True Colours, don't really rate that one that much, to be fair. I've not played the rest of it. Me and my girlfriend got up to a point. I think we're near the end of it, but we've just not been that motivated to see the end of it. Really didn't enjoy the character development as much in this one. I way prefer Life is Strange 1 and the DLC. Not even played Life is Strange 2, so maybe one day I'll get on that. You also asked what was the first psych you ever tried. So if we're saying like classic psychedelics, like the tryptamines and etc., it was. Oh, I'd say probably my first psychedelic experience was salvia. I'd only ever smoked weed, and then there used to be this head shop, which is these shops that basically they can get away with selling substances with these legal loopholes, and obviously sell like weed smoking paraphernalia and other drug paraphernalia. And my mate was like, "All right, we're getting you all on salvia. I'm gonna pay for it just to get you guys off your head because it'd be entertaining." So I was like, "Let's fucking do it!" And then we did it at my mate's house. I only had a bit, but I was still having sort of these weird like reality bending effects. Like everything, my whole vision was like on a 2D plane, but my body felt 3D. I got sort of the weird zippery effect as well. So it was my first ever psych, I'd say. But again, some people don't consider, well, salvia is a psychedelic, I don't care what you say, but out of the classic psychedelics, the first one I ever tried was 1p LSD, and yeah, obviously you could get it online quite easily, so I ended up taking that on a fishing trip, and fuck me, I had like one tab thinking, oh, it'll just be like some funky visuals, and basically got stuck on like this rock, the patch of land where we were going fishing. And we had to like call up our mate in the area, and she had to come and guide us out because it had gone dark, and we were trying to jump over like this little pool of water that we looked at, and we thought it was like a massive ravine, and we thought we were going to drown in it, so it took us ages to jump over that. And then me and my two mates were sat in like my mate's car, and we were just absolutely tripping balls, seeing so much mad stuff with closed eye visuals, listening to like Red Hot Chilies, and the music would dictate like the visuals and everything. It was amazing. And that was my first time I ever properly tripped on a classic psychedelic. So yeah, thank you for that question. That was the Instagram questions. So now we'll move on to some of the YouTube questions. There was a lot more on these. So Conky Dong asks, what aspect of reality what aspect of reality has psychedelics made you question the most? And how has that realization affected your everyday life? I'm a massive fan of your content. Your fearless disposition in search for the greater truth is inspiring. Long live Vivec. Thank you, Conky Dong. And yep, that profile picture is fucking quality. I love that. So what aspect of reality has psychedelics made you question the most? The nature of material existence and how we assume that everything is physical and made of atoms, and how much we trust science and how much we just trust the culture and the social matrix that we're brought up in. Psychedelics completely take you out of the box. They make you think outside the box. You see that if you have high doses of psychedelics and you have an ego death where literally like the walls have melted and you go into this timeless void, then I personally, for me, when that happened, I just could never see reality as material anymore. I see how fundamental consciousness actually is, and the reason why science can't grasp consciousness is because it is more fundamental than physics and materialism, personally speaking, for me, from my experiences. Obviously you might think differently based on your experiences. It also showed me that everyone's idea of reality is completely based upon what their culture has fed them, their upbringing, and just generally like their relative experiences over time. But psychedelics are actually a window into the higher truth of reality, and this is why so many of the, say, really profound trip reports that I share are all pointing to this idea of universal consciousness and infinity. This idea of reality being infinite was something I never questioned before psychedelics. I was like, everything is finite and going to end, and we're all going to die and go to nothingness and blackness. But now I realise how, well, I could never go back to thinking that after all of the experiences I've had. It also completely changed my perception of time. Like I thought like time was just like a straight arrow, when actually it really isn't. The present moment is, well, I'd say the present moment is the only thing happening right now, and that the ideas of past and future are all concepts. Though everyone's experiences will be different, and their takeaways and interpretations from these experiences will vary based upon, again, all of these factors throughout your life and your biology. But personally for me, yep, it has completely shattered the idea that reality is material from taking psychedelics. Thank you for the question. Next one is from Cowlovers for the win. Congrats, man, 5k is a huge milestone. My question is, what was your most mystical or life-changing psychedelic experience? Would love to hear about it. I've actually gone through it before in the four personal stories I've shared on the channel, on the playlist. You can find them on the personal stories. I'll loop them in with the trip reports and just put personal story in the title because I think they relate so much to the other ones that I want them to be in the same sort of pool of understanding. So if you've not watched them, I implore you to read them, but just to paraphrase them experiences is that the first most mystical experience I ever had was in the Brink of Insanity video that I shared, where basically it was the first time I ever had an ego death / mystical experience, where basically the whole room just melted around me, time completely halted to us, it completely came to a halt, and I had notions of God consciousness and cosmic orgasms and ecstasy and euphoria beyond even anybody's wildest dreams on MDMA or heroin or anything that conventionally produces euphoric experiences. This was like a deep spiritual connection with the cosmos, and that really completely changed everything for me, because like for the next few years, ever since that happened in 2017, and literally all of the time that's gone from that experience leading up till today has been trying to figure out what it actually was that happened to me, and I didn't have any, and that was when my journey brought me to the understanding of what an ego death really is. It's a transcendence of, say, the human form, really, and it allows you, the more deep you go into an ego death, it allows you to see more and feel more and channel more of the true nature of reality, which I believe is infinity, and that is the answer to reality. Like, what is reality? It is infinity, because infinity is everything, and infinity is itself. It's the Ouroboros, the snake eating its own tail. And if you have ego deaths and mystical experiences on the level of, say, something I've had, or someone else who's had even higher degrees of ego death, they will tell you that reality, is infinite, and this changes your entire life and your perspective. Obviously, I don't expect you to believe me, because this is just my personal experience, but yeah, I thought I'd be honest and just say that that's what I think about reality and consciousness. Thanks for the question. Next one is Mr. Gebian. I don't know how to pronounce that name, but I'm sorry if I've offended you, because I didn't mean to. Hey Vivec, first of all, congratulations. I've been watching your videos since the beginning. I love the trip reports. I have a tricky question, actually. How can psychedelics or entheogens become more available to the general public, and how can we achieve a more public acceptance and acknowledgement of these substances, while also trying to make some of them legal? This is tricky because generally the world we live in is not open to this hyper-progressive notion of making psychedelics legal for therapeutic reasons or just generally personal development. And it is a very fine line to walk, because if you made psychedelics legal, a lot of people would abuse them, and this could possibly produce more trauma than it could spiritual healing or personal development. But what we need to do is basically we need to start educating people more. We need to slowly but surely reveal the profound nature of these substances to the public. We need to get it in education systems. We need to have more people openly talking about them in government and etc., so that people are more open to it and accepting of these radical tools. This can only be achieved over time. This is never going to happen overnight. But slowly and surely, as we decriminalise, say, cannabis, this is going to be the domino effect that eventually results in, say, perhaps the decriminalisation of psychedelics within our lifetime, but it slowly needs to happen because, again, so many people are... the majority of people on Earth are unconscious. This is just like the nature of reality and the world that we live in, and it's not actually a bad thing, it's just the way things are right now. We literally are still in the dark ages. I mean, people forget that just because we're in the 21st century doesn't mean we've overcome all of our deep karmic backlog from generations of suffering and ego within society and our own personal timelines. So we really do just need to basically wean it into the public eye. A bit say like with UFOs, like what's happening, like they're slowly but surely revealing it, because it's something that's profound and radical, needs to have time to gestate and get digested by the public. So the more we just keep decriminalising like cannabis and other stuff and this, that, and that MDMA for PTSD and etc., the faster we can get to decriminalising, legalising psychedelics. So that's my opinion. Next question is from Isaac Siojo, or Siojo, I have no idea. Congratulations, man. As always, looking forward to new content. Oh, that wasn't a question, but that was just a very nice compliment you've given me there, like. So, yeah, next question is Callum Kirby. Question, most challenging experience on any drug? Congrats on 5k, bro. Oh, fuck. So many horrible ones. Challenging. The most challenging, I'd say, is probably the video I produced, the panic on the streets of Manchester. That was my first trip report that I actually uploaded to the channel. Of when I literally ran naked through the Curry Mile in Manchester. I was having like an insane, chaotic ego death experience off 2 tabs. Completely lost my mind and everything. Just so many nightmarish experiences. I interpreted everything as trying to like kill me. I almost ran into a bus to try and, because there was in my mind there was no difference between what I was experiencing and death, because my consciousness was just absolutely all over the place. So that was very challenging to deal with, and it also obviously, I literally got arrested naked and then taken to a hospital and that, and so that was pretty traumatic. And I also had been punched on the way there, and I destroyed my feet from running around barefooted, so I was like incapacitated. I lost all my wallet, lost my phone, everything, and just the embarrassment of dealing with all that was pretty traumatic, but ended up being it ended up being a really deep lesson in the end, and actually provided a great insight into the nature of consciousness and truth, really. So it was challenging, but ended up being very positive in the end. So yeah, that's that question done. If you don't mind answering, what are your thoughts on the afterlife? Yeah, this question is almost too deep to be answered just in this Q&A, because this requires so much context. And to be honest, I'm actually my reasoning for making and sharing profound trip reports is that I'm trying to enlighten people to the nature of consciousness, and that how fundamental and infinite it really is, and how this all links in with spirituality and metaphysics and science and religion. So I'd say, just to paraphrase it, my opinion from all my experiences, all my research, and just genuinely contemplating life from a very young age, is that there is an afterlife, but it's nothing like the egoic idea of an afterlife that we've been fed through religion and just generally assuming based off your own personal biases. This is the strength and the power of an ego death, and say like 5-MeO DMT and DMT in general, and just any high dose psychedelic, is that it will reveal to you that consciousness is infinite, and the nature of the afterlife is that it will just be another life. You will just reincarnate, and you will reincarnate forever, because your true nature is that of an infinite being. You are infinite universal mind. You're a finite expression of infinity, and when you die, it will just go on forever and ever and ever, because universal mind / God, or what the word God actually points towards, which is infinity, universal consciousness, infinite absolute love, is that it just wants to experience itself in every single form, and this current form that you inhabit is just one of infinite many. And whether, I don't know the nature of, say, like past lives, but let's say hypothetically that each life segues into the next one extremely naturally to work through your karmic backlog to become an even higher, more conscious, more loving being. That seems to be like the true nature of the universe from what I've experienced on an ego death. So I don't think the notion of like you go to heaven and you go to hell and these are like these binary finite places that you go to, like, so I don't think that's true. But you can reincarnate in a hell realm because maybe that's what you need for your growth in a twisted sense. Or maybe you die and you experience, like, you go through all your karma in this lifetime, and then you go on and become like some angelic, like DMT entity being. Or maybe you don't burn through your karma in this lifetime and you perhaps repeat the same life or repeat a different life to work through your karma and etc. That's what I think the afterlife is. It's just basically reincarnation forever and ever and ever. And I also believe that this can be empirically verified on, say, 5-MeO DMT and other high doses of psychedelics. It will reveal to you the dream that the infinite mind is dreaming up, that we all inhabit and that we all are, because we are all one. And that is the nature of non-duality, is that there is only one thing in the universe and it's you. So, yeah. And it's not actually a bad thing either, but it's not solid. People like to paint it with this, like, oh, I'm the only thing in the universe, and it's like, but have you seen your life? It's like absolutely beautiful. I mean, the fact that you can create, the universal mind can create this sense of other and can create material, a world that feels so real, yet it is actually a dream. It's actually beautiful, but it's just the ego that clouds it with its toxicity. But yeah, I will be talking more about this in a separate video, because I feel like it deserves more context, and it's so radical and profound that it can't just be answered here. But I hope that was a suffice little answer to this very big question. Communist Cat asks, congrats on your success. What is your favourite Soulsborne game? Mine would have to be Dark Souls 1, then Demon Souls, then the rest just fall in. There isn't a bad Souls game. Yeah, fully agree, there isn't a bad Souls game. Even the black sheep of the series, Dark Souls 2, is an amazing game by itself. Just not up to the standard of all the other ones, in my opinion, but still an amazingly enjoyable and challenging game. It's just unfortunate that it has a lot of, there was a lot of oversights in the development of the game, in terms of the world building and just the fine tuning of the gameplay and the fairness and difficulty. But all the other ones, I'd say my favourites in order. It always changes, but my favourites in order is Bloodborne. That's just absolutely one of my favourite games ever, and easily my top 10 favourite games. Love the setting, love the combat, love the challenge, the imagination going into the design of just the creatures, the story, how much you can interpret, and I love how you have to piece all the story together and figure it out for yourself, and there's not a concrete explanation. It's inspired so many amazing theories on the game that people have uploaded. Check out the Pale Blood Hunt on type in the Pale Blood Hunt Bloodborne. That's a really good analysis of the whole story and themes. I love the mixture of like gothic and Lovecraftian horror. That's just amazing. I love how it naturally progresses into from one type into the next type of horror. That's just so awesome. And then my next one after that, Bloodborne, and then I'd say probably Dark Souls 3. When I first played Dark Souls 3, I was just like, yeah, that was great, but it's got nothing on Dark Souls 1 or Bloodborne. But now, after replaying it 2 more times, I cannot doubt the fact that is the most fine-tuned of the Dark Souls games. It's so unbelievably enjoyable. All the builds, all the areas are just so cool. Obviously, it's not got the tight, and the world design isn't as tight as, say, Dark Souls 1, sort of the Metroidvania aspect to it, in a sense, where it all interlinks. But for me, that doesn't really matter, because everything else going on in Dark Souls 3 is absolutely awesome. All the quest lines with the characters, the DLC is both DLCs are fantastic. It's got some of the very best boss fights in any game ever, both in the DLC and the base game. there's just so much to love about it, and it's an absolutely gorgeous, beautiful game with amazing music, and it actually, some of just parts of the game just give me goosebumps every time I play them. But I used to like Dark Souls 1 more, but I replayed Dark Souls 1 recently, and even though I absolutely love that game and will always respect it, it has aged quite, in some areas it has aged quite badly, but this is just it's just a product of the time of when it was released. Like, some areas of it are just not as compelling as I remember them being, but overall it's probably still, I'd still say it's my, I don't know, I'd say Demon Souls is my third favourite. I can't even sing that game's praises enough. I mean, I've replayed that most out of all of them. I mean, I've replayed the PS3 game like 3 times. I literally replayed it last year in lockdown, and then they announced, obviously, that they were remaking it for PS5, and I was like, oh, well, here we go, going to be replaying that like 3 more times, which I did. I probably replayed that game like fucking 7 times, mental. So I know that game inside and out, so the fact that I have so much experience with it makes me love it so much. And I just love how different it is to Dark Souls, the more level-based approach. It's just, I love how there's, in the Soulsborne games, like, they all follow this sort of formula in terms of the gameplay and how it feels, in a sense. Yet they are all so radically different in the way they feel, in a way. But that the core gameplay loop is and the features and the game feel. The similarities between them all allows you to appreciate them as one like cohesive whole, which is so cool. And yeah, I love the world of Demon Souls. The setting, I think I prefer the setting to Dark Souls, because again, it's just a bit weirder and creepier, and obviously there was a lot more Berserk influences in terms of the atmosphere, I'd say, in Demon Souls. Like, Latria is just one of the best levels in any game ever. And then I'd say after that is Dark Souls 1. Oh no, I don't know. I think I like Sekiro more than Dark Souls 1 nowadays. Replaying Sekiro is just fucking incredible. The combat system is just one of the best in any game ever. I just love the fact that the parrying and the riposting and just the twitch-based reactions is taken to the nth degree in that game. And the verticality and the stealth is also really enjoyable, and just From Software's take on like Japanese mythology and folklore is just utterly wonderful to see. And then then I'd say Dark Souls 1 and then Dark Souls 2. But yeah, Dark Souls 2, not saying that Dark Souls 1 and Dark Souls 2 are comparable in quality at all, because I think Dark Souls 1 is leagues and leagues better than Dark Souls 2. But yeah, I still love Dark Souls 1, it just doesn't hold up as much for me anymore. But it's still one of the best games ever, I'd say. And the story in Dark Souls 1 is still absolutely incredible, so I still buzz off that. And all the music is probably the best in Dark Souls 1, I'd say, out of all of them. So yeah, I could go on about them games forever. The Soulsborne games are just like one of the many blessings of gaming in the past 10 years. It really revolutionised it, especially with how fucking homogenous and drab games are becoming. It really is a shining light for all the fucking like absolute normie bullshit that games have been toxified with. So yeah, it's always refreshing to see them games still getting released. 7 asks, yeah bud, I got a question. Well, a few. What sparked your interest in substances? What's your take or version of God? And your voice, getting that perfect soothing story flow, did it take practice or it come natural? To address the voice, basically, well, you can hear when I do these unscripted voices, what the fuck? Unscripted videos, my voice is much different, because I do put on a voice for the trip reports. I've realised that I enjoy doing that, and I've always been told that I'm really good at impersonations and impressions and accents and etc, and just generally manipulating my voice to sound different. I've noticed that not a lot of people can actually do it as well as I do. I don't want to blow my horn in any way, because that's not the sort of person I am, but I've obviously got this weird like special talent in a way to manipulate my voice, but this is just my normal voice as I'm speaking right now. So I've just been able to do it forever. Is just been able to, if I want to do a soothing voice, I'm just able to do it with my vocal cord. It's really weird. But obviously when I first started doing the trip reports, I literally just did it like, hello, it is me and I have had a psychedelic experience and it was proper West and I feel well weird, stuff like that. But then obviously as time's gone on, I realised that people prefer like a more soothing soft-spoken voice, so I do put that voice on in my trip reports to give the narration more flavour. But it did take some practice, I guess, over the trip reports, like the many that I've released so far. You can see that with my voice changes, because I was realising like what is actually the best voice for these sort of videos. And I feel like I've hit a sweet spot with my narration lately, so I'm really glad that people enjoy that. What sparked your interest in substances? Just generally curiosity as a teenager. I mean, I was this serious introvert back in the day in high school up till like year 11, when I didn't drink or anything. I didn't really have many mates. I was so introverted. I just like played games and watched anime and just stayed in my room on Skype and made like West YouTube videos, such as the Attack on Titan Abridged series and all them Let's Plays I used to do, and just loads of crap. But I always had mates online, and we all talked on there. But I wasn't really mates with anyone in school. And then I just started basically getting into drinking, I guess, from going to parties, which I'd never been to before. And this was like I was coming out of my shell. This was a whole new world. So I was like, let's explore all these avenues of crazy experiences. So obviously that was hand in hand with that comes basically getting on substances. And it started with, say, smoking weed occasionally at parties with mates and that, and just generally having like blaze ups at people's houses. Then obviously I'd say, like before I was saying about salvia, like that came into the equation. So when I did that, I was like, oh right, well may as well take it further. So I got more and more interested, and it wasn't really solidified till I ended up taking like ecstasy at a rave in the countryside. This was in late 2014. And that's when it really just skyrocketed. I was like, wow, this is a whole new world that I'm exploring. And I became very extroverted, which I'd never been in my life. So obviously that just came with getting on it all the time, and had some ups and downs. But it's also been probably the most transformative and growth catalyzing experience of my life, taking substances. Obviously I had some horrible experiences, and I've learned a lot of stuff from all this shit. And I can't believe I've missed out on answering this, but when the other person asked me before about what was my most traumatic experience on drugs, I would have to say that I went to this festival called Kendall Calling, and I ended up basically accidentally smoking spice, whilst I was also smashing loads of other stuff like ecstasy and acid and weed and etc. I was just frying my brain when this was my first festival ever, and I was really immature with the way I was using substances, and I paid the price for it because I just smoked this biff whilst I was on like loads of pills, and then it turned out to be spice or like some synthetic cannabis, and I literally went absolutely insane running around the festival like thinking people were going to kill me, and like I thought the security guards were like pulling guns out on me, and literally and then they had to take me to like welfare, and I thought I was getting lobotomized, and I was ringing up my mates like, oh my god, I'm never going to see you ever again, this is the end of my life and all this shit. So that was my most traumatic experience. And then yeah, basically I just got left in Kendall by myself. I had to figure out how to get home because my parents wouldn't pick me up in the state I was in, obviously, like because I was so bad. I was literally so fucked, like I can't even blame them. It was terrible, and I don't remember a week after that. So that was to answer someone's previous question. I'm sorry that I didn't answer that immediately. It didn't come to mind. But yeah, back to this question. I'm sorry, this is all over the place. But yeah, back to segue back into that. Yeah, my interest in substances probably catalysed through my transference of an introverted personality to an extroverted personality, also coupled with, say, my growing interest with drum and bass and like UK based music like bassline and etc. And for the next few years, from like 2014, I'd go to loads of festivals and events and make so many friends and host these parties and raves and etc. And that really brought me out of my shell, and so obviously with that came the abuse of substances. What's your take or version of God? Yeah, in one word, is just infinity, infinite universal mind, absolute love, the greatest, most beautiful thing in the universe. I don't believe in I don't know how I can believe in like the Christian Orthodox God or the very finite, limited versions, or the egoic versions of God that we talk about in all the religions throughout the world. What they're really trying to point towards, I believe, is infinity. Just, yeah, infinite consciousness that is forever and eternal, and that loves itself unconditionally, and that we are all part of, and we all compose, but we are also just one thing. I'm going to talk more about it in the future. There's too much. It's too detailed and profound to talk about on a question, but I hope that satisfied you in some sense. TTG Music asks, what is a psychedelic type drug that you think everyone should stay away from? I think people should stay away from salvia until they feel they are very ready and can do it in a controlled way, because even though it can give you some great insights and open your mind to the deeper nature and the vast openness of consciousness and all the different varied and twisted crazy states that can happen, literally infinite amount of states, it can also be very traumatic if you're not ready for it, even those who are like absolutely well versed in psychedelics. So I'd absolutely say to steer clear from that until you realise you are fully ready. Have a trip sitter in a controlled environment, great setting, and then you should use it to spiritually develop or personally develop yourself. Because at the end of the day, psychedelic and like 25 iron, etc., they shouldn't really be used unless you're using it at a safe dose and you know exactly what you're getting. And even stuff like heroic doses of mushrooms, you need to wean yourself into it by going through the lower doses first. Never just jump into a high dose, or you do have a high chance of traumatizing yourself. EK Trips, do you believe that once our body dies, our soul will go to the same place that DMT shows you? I'd say it goes even deeper than that, because that is sort of like a binary, finite understanding of the afterlife, which is just infinity. So yeah, your consciousness could materialize as a DMT entity and go to some like DMT realm, or it could go somewhere else, because it's literally infinite. It's whatever it is. I don't know the exact process of what happens like after you die, like what it looks like, what it feels like, what is going on, because the fact that it's infinite means it could be anything. So one of the many infinite things you could experience as consciousness is living in a DMT realm, as a DMT entity, as a machine elf. So it could be. So that could be the next step for someone's consciousness when they die. The next logical step for their existence could be to be a DMT or machine elf. But who knows? Honestly, who knows? It's too profound to even understand, and it's also relative to like the individual, like what their journey in life is, and journey through their karma. Could they go and become? Are they destined to become a fly or a pig after they die, or are they destined to become a fucking hyperdimensional being? So you just don't know. It's all down to factors that we can only understand really by extreme meditation or high doses of psychedelics, but oftentimes people won't even experience that in their lifetime, and they just have to take it at face value as like, if I die, I'm just going to have to accept what happens. Next question is from Ravi Rossfan27, and he asks, when did your interest in substances begin? So I've sort of already answered this before, so I'm sorry about that. But yeah, again, just to reiterate, my interest in substances came from sort of moving from an introvert to an extrovert, from partying and just raving and getting an interest in electronic music and dancing, and obviously that goes hand in hand with taking ecstasy and ketamine and everything. And obviously my interest in substances at first was just purely recreational. But as time went on and I started experimenting with psychedelics, it became a lot more spiritual, metaphysical, and more about self-help and personal development. And I'd say nowadays I only really take recreational drugs on occasion if I'm really fancy it. But for the most part, I just go to stuff like sober and enjoy that. And when I take psychedelics or anything, I've usually got an intention for it, to develop myself in some way, or understand and contemplate something about reality that I want to understand more. The Real Island Boys asks, do you think these psychedelic realms or entities are real during a trip? Well, first of all, we have to ask, like, what is real? Do we mean, is it something that's material and physical and tangible? Then I'd say yes, in a way, but obviously when you experience these realms and entities on psychedelics, they aren't material. They're made out of, say, like energy. They're made out of these hyperdimensional beings from like higher dimensions, 4D, 5D beings. They're not confined to the materialistic 3D way of existence like we are. So yes, they are real in the fact that they can exist through your consciousness, but right now in 3D reality, where it's just what I'm looking at right now, they don't currently exist. But when I tap into them, they do exist. So it's a bit like a paradox where they're both real and also not. But because consciousness, again, is infinite, it can beckon and create these experiences and realms and entities, and they are oftentimes realer than real. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. Right, on to the next set of questions from the other post. I can't believe this has been going on for an hour. Blue Yoshi asks, what advice do you have for people who find themselves lost in their spiritual journeys? My best advice is to, first of all, take a break from pursuing spirituality and pursue other, say, lower conscious, maybe materialistic things like, I don't know, having fun with friends or something, or going on holiday, going travelling, broadening your mind in different ways than just constantly pursuing spirituality and higher states of consciousness. Because again, there is both, if it's lower or higher, whatever it is that you're pursuing, it can still be a force for good, and it is all just absolute goodness in a way. So go and deplete some of your karmic desires that you desire. Go and like pursue girls, or go and say, get something out of your system that you've always wanted to do. Get creative, do things that you wouldn't usually do. Think outside the box, do stuff like that. Generally just chill out and relax and have time to yourself, and only pursue spirituality when you're extremely grounded and ready for it. And if you're not feeling grounded and you're feeling anxious and all over the place, then put your spiritual journey on a pause, and you can always come back to it when you're feeling better and you've got more clear mind and more clear intentions. Callum Kirby asks, yo, what was the most challenging experience you've had on any drug thus far? Yeah, just to reiterate, the other answer before was, yeah, when I was on Spice at Kendall Calling, and I was literally losing my mind, thought I was going to die, and I was getting lobotomized, and I was hallucinating like double of people, and I was just getting chased around the whole festival by bouncers well, not bouncers, the security and the medical team, and think I was getting taken to death row and everything. And then obviously my parents finding me the day after, going to pick me up, and I was literally just off my head and I don't remember anything for a week. I was like pissing the bed and everything. That was absolutely disgusting, to be fair. So yeah, not about that, and hopefully never happen again. Well, it won't do, because I was so immature at the time, but it did teach me a lot of lessons, just like any negative experience has the potential to. Robert Smith, hopefully this is the guy from The Cure himself. Have you personally experienced any HPPD symptoms from taking psychedelics, such as visual snow, tinnitus, or migraine aura? Thanks for having such a great channel also. Oh, cheers, my man. No, not really, but one time when I was at Leeds Festival, I've talked about this before, I had no idea what happened. I think like this bag of like weird synthetic cat got mixed with like a tab of 25i or acid, and then we ended up having some of the ket, and then the effect of the acid sort of mingled with the ket, so when we were having it, we had all of the ket, and then it just seemed to last for like over 24 hours, and we still had like traces and visuals then into the next like day over 24 hours later. So that's the closest I've experienced HPPD symptoms. I've never actually suffered with them from taking psychedelics, even in higher doses. So nah, I've not really, but I have heard that tinnitus can come about from using 5-MeO and DMT from breaking through. So yeah, you got to be careful about that. Next question is from my man Trip Reports. Check out his channel if you've not already. He's got an amazing catalogue of trip reports on there and awesome compilations, possibly the most wide array on YouTube. I love listening to them. He says, first, congrats on 5k, a milestone to be proud of for sure. Rock on, dude. Who or what inspired you to start your YouTube channel and do the content you do? This is a good way for me to plug my other comrade, which is someone that's no one. Do you know what actually inspired me to start doing it? Is that I actually wrote up my Panic on the Streets of Manchester report. I sent it to someone. He didn't read it out, which actually ended up being a really good thing. And I ended up making a video of it myself because I was like, oh, why not I just do it myself and make a video? And then it all just spiraled out from there. But originally, obviously, when I was first making YouTube, it was just because all my mates were, and we all just had like different ideas for content, and we're all making let's plays and that. And then when I was doing like a bridged series. Which is basically a bridge series, if you don't know. They're basically where you just take like anime series. Obviously I was quite big into anime back then, and you just like, so yeah, you basically cut them down and intersperse it with like comedy and just do your own spin on it. And the reason that inspired me to do that is because, I don't know, I just saw like Team 4 Star and all the other abridgers making their own funny takes on anime, and then I made this Code Geass abridged series called Cooked Geese, which then ended up leading into Attack on Titan coming out, and that was absolutely massive, if you remember that back in the day in 2013. And then I was the first person to make an abridged series of that, and obviously just due to the popularity of Attack on Titan, it just exploded. If you look on my most popular videos in the channel are all of that series, and that's initially what got me to 2,000 subscribers. And then I just left the channel for ages, for years and years and years, and obviously came back to it in late December. Well, late 2020, with the trip reports and other like spiritual stuff, and yeah, it's all just emerged from then, which is pretty cool. But yeah, big ups to someone that's no one. Initially finding the trip reports that he produces really inspired me to make this channel. So without his content, it really wouldn't have paved the way for anything I do. And he is the OG, the original prankster when it comes to that. Question from Cal. Do you do any practices such as meditation for similar purposes to psychedelics? I was an avid meditator for years on end. I just for some reason, over the past few years, ever since COVID, my mind's really become very ADHD riddled in a sense, and I found it very difficult to meditate. But I do listen to just binaural beats and sit down and listen and relax and sort of meditate to them. But I don't do it in a rote I don't do it in like as a daily practice where I'm like, all right, sit down, I'm going to do this, because after a while I found that it wasn't actually helping me. But I do need to sort of get back into it, because it is extremely beneficial, and I would recommend it. I would recommend anyone does it who has an interest in psychedelics, because it goes hand in hand and they complement each other and it grounds you. Although taking meditation too far to quieten the mind too much to sort of escape suffering can also be quite a detrimental thing, because if you want to explore psychedelics more and understand more about consciousness and reality and the universe, then you do sort of need an active mind to contemplate these things quite deeply. Imprisoned Fetus, possibly the best name ever, he says, congratulations on 5k, that's a big milestone for a small channel. What's your most memorable experience that involved substances? Not necessarily your favourite substance, just a favourite substance-related memory. Wow, there's almost too many. Just every time I've just been on substances with my mates at a festival. Possibly the funniest one that comes to mind was at Boomtown 2018. I think we were me and like two of my mates in the group, because we've got a massive group of mates that go to these festivals and raves and events and everything. It's really beautiful. We've got an amazing like community where I live, and just so many beautiful, deep and entertaining, amusing friendships that I've made with everybody, and we all make with each other. It's really cool how they've all come about. But two of these people, we were on a mission at Boomtown 2018, taking loads of mad like psychedelics and that, and like, loads of ecstasy and ket and that, and then basically we were at Chris Lorenzo, which is like a bassline producer / DJ, and we were all three of us were like proper wired on MD, and then this guy next to us had balloons, and we were like, oh yeah, do you fancy giving us one? And then we all had the balloon at the same time, and then one of them like massive balloons, and we absolutely chonged it. and then I literally, it was like my consciousness or my perspective was like ejected out of my own head, and I literally saw the back of my head and their heads. I literally had eyes in the back of my head from tanning nos balloons and being wired at the same time, and then I was literally like in that sort of state for like the duration of the experience of the nos. And then when I went back into my own head, I literally turned to left and right, and said to both my mates, like, I've literally just been ejected out of my own head, and they said they experienced the same thing. So we absolutely pissed ourselves that just happened. So that was quite a memorable moment. But I'll talk about more weird experiences and funny experiences I've had on substances, especially at festivals in the future. I might do like my favourite festival memories video if people want to see that. I was just drinking some H2O there. Next question is from Inevitable and I. Oh, let me just get comfy again. If you ever got the chance, I'd love to see some horror gameplay from you. Your gameplay commentary over that. VR Resident Evil 4 would be mental. Yeah, I'd like to do that if I have the chance to in the future. Maybe do a bit more gameplay. I'd probably make a separate channel though. Cow Lovers for the Win asks again, what was your most mystical, life-changing psychedelic experience? Yeah, again, I'd say just watch my personal stories, trip reports, and that'll go into way more detail than I can say here. Julie Perez says, if you could give a baby psych user one piece of advice, what would it be? Love your videos. Thanking you. Just to start on smaller doses and make sure you realise that psychedelics are a journey that will probably, if serious about them, they'll follow you your entire life, or you will follow it your entire life. So you should start on smaller doses, experiment with different sort of psychedelics that are relatively like safe, the sort of the classic ones, and use lower doses of them and get yourself grounded in the experience of like being in a trippy sort of headspace. And then slowly work your way up, and then that will complement your growth so much, because it is a process and it's a slow burn, but it's all worth it in the end. So yeah, just take your time and remember to enjoy it. And if bad stuff does emerge, remember that in the end, oftentimes you will grow more from your bad trips, unless they are absolute nightmare trips. So yeah, just always keep in mind setting, and it's never a bad idea to have a trip sitter as well to overlook your experience, just in case you freak out, and they can often help you and ground you. Felix Colgrave asks, what are some of your favourite pieces of art, like paintings, movies, games, TV, etc.? I'd say my favourite artists are probably, I've forgotten his name. Well, first of all, it's got to be like surreal artists like Salvador Dali and MC Escher. And then Hieronymus Bosch. He's probably made my favourite painting of all time, which is that the Garden of Earthly Delights, which is just absolutely incredible. I mean, look at it. Just look at it on YouTube. Look it on Google. It's just an absolute fucking masterpiece. And obviously, he was a big inspiration on Berserk as well. And I love the art in Berserk. All the weird, twisted, dreamy, nightmarish artwork was inspired by him. And then also I love Alex Gray, the DMT artist who does the stuff for Tool. Then the pineal gland artist, what's he called? Sean Thornton. He's also amazing. And then who am I trying to think of? Zawinski. Wait, hold on. Let me find it. God damn it. Oh, one sec. I'm gonna find it. Here's another one that I'm trying to think of as well. Oh god, what is he called? The guy who does like the artist, who does the guy who does the art for the band Death with the and Obituary as well. I'm gonna find it now. I'm on the verge. I'm on the verge of finding it. Oh my god, where? Michael Whelan. Yeah, he does so many of the awesome pieces of artwork for Obituary. That's it. The one I'm thinking of, the guy who did Death. I'll find it one sec. Fuck's sake, the guy I'm thinking of is Beksinski. So he's probably my favourite, like, sort of horror artist. look up his stuff. He's called, I can't even pronounce it, like Zdzislaw Beksinski. That was awful Polish accent. I should be castrated in the streets for such a crime. Yeah, sorry about that. But the next answer to your question is what movies, my favourite movies. Let me get me letterboxed up. My favourite movies are The End of Evangelion. If you've seen my End of Avery analysis video, you know how much I love that film. Alejandro Jodorowsky's The Holy Mountain from 1973. The stop motion film Mary and Max from 2009. And the 2019 sort of like the Lovecraftian horror drama period piece The Lighthouse by, oh my god, what are they called? Robert Eggers. Yeah, that they're like some of my very favourite films. If you want to look at my letterbox, I think I linked that in my about section. But just to read some of my favourite films off there that aren't the absolute top ones would be like Apocalypse Now, Clockwork Orange, 2001: A Space Odyssey, It's Such a Beautiful Day, The Big Lebowski, La Haine, Wallace and Gromit, The Wrong Trousers, Mommy, Goodfellas, Aliens, Brazil, Blade Runner, the first one in 2049, The Thing, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Taxi Driver, The Witch, Pan's Labyrinth, There Will Be Blood, Hot Fuzz, Cachet, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, Spirited Away, Requiem for a Dream, Her, The Blair Witch Project, Children of Men, The Hunt, Anomalisa, Donnie Darko, Happiness, American Beauty, Mulholland Drive, Lord of the Rings trilogy, Magnolia, the Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me, City of God, The Lobster, and fuck me, there's so many here. Samsara, Mad Max Fury Road, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, Trainspotting, The Skin I Live In, Revanche, Pulp Fiction, Ghost in the Shell, and wait, did I say Trainspotting or not? Well, I can't remember. But yeah, if you want to have a look at my films on Letterboxd, it lists them. There's very few that I rate like 5 out of 5 because I just think like if it's a 5 out of 5, then it's usually the perfect film. So that's very rare for me. But you might be different. Games, favourite games in order, probably. Well, my favourite game ever is Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. Check out my Majora's Mask analysis if you haven't already to find out my experiences with that game. And then I'd probably say Deus Ex, Fallout New Vegas, Thief 2, Pathologic 2, Disco Elysium, Devil May Cry 5, Fallout 2, the Persona games 4, 3, and 5, as well as what else? Oh, Stalker, Shadow of Chernobyl. Oh yeah, obviously there's the whole Soulsborne games except Dark Souls 2, Elder Scrolls 3, Morrowind, Journey, loads of other Zelda games like Twilight Princess, Ocarina of Time, and Wind Waker are some of my very favourites, and obviously Breath of the Wild as well. Mario games like Mario Galaxy and Banjo-Kazooie is some of my favourite games. It's far too many. I need to talk about all my favourite games in a video. I need to do like an actual list listing my absolute favourites. Oh, Bayonetta and Bayonetta 2, they come to mind as well, and Doom 2 especially. My favourite genre of games are like RPGs or like immersive sims. I just love stuff like that so much. I love Rebitha because it's possibly the most in-depth games, immersive sims like Thief and Deus Ex and stuff like that. And then RPGs are just, you have so much choice, and the Fallout especially is just amazing. Like Fallout 2 and New Vegas, Fallout 1, 2 and New Vegas are like 3 of my very favourite games ever, purely because there's so much choice and nuance with the dialogue and writing, and it just feels so much more intelligent than the Bethesda fucking absolute brain dead drivel from Fallout 3 and 4. It's absolute garbage. I fucking hate that shit. I've got to be angry then. So yeah, on TV, my favourite TV show of all time is The Sopranos. I'd love to talk about it more in depth. I think it's the deepest show ever made. it's actually incredible. I literally watched it earlier this year with my parents because we were like, oh, let's watch a series like whilst COVID is happening, and it just ended up being like the most jaw-dropping, amazingly written, intelligent show I've seen in my life. Unbelievably entertaining, absolutely hilarious. Just one of the greatest achievements for me, mankind's history for me. Really, I couldn't believe how much I enjoyed it. And other shows I really like. My second favorite show is Twin Peaks. Again, a lot of the praises I sing about Sopranos, I sing about that as well. It's weird. It's down to earth, but also quite like strange. Sopranos is a lot more grounded, whereas some weird like Twin Peaks surreal aspects going on. It can be interpreted in loads of different ways. There's so much wisdom and philosophy going in both of them, and I love how you got to piece together the story of Twin Peaks as it gets into the third season, which is just like absolutely out there. It's like a 14-hour art film basically. But yeah, if you've never seen either of them series, definitely watch them. And then I also love Breaking Bad, and I used to love Game of Thrones before they absolutely butchered it with the final few seasons. That was an absolute embarrassment. That whole last season, it's just one of the most catastrophic failures in media in recent memory. It's fucking shit. That. I also love Black Mirror as well. That's an amazing series. That's probably one of my very favourites, and I even love the Netflix stuff as well. That people say that, oh, I prefer the Channel 4 stuff, it's so much grittier, and yeah, I think I do overall. But I think just the whole Black Mirror series is amazing. Oh, and then I guess if we're gonna lump anime into that as well, which we probably should, the only anime I really like nowadays is the ones that I think are like god tier, really intelligent, quite profound series. I just don't enjoy any of like the more basic like shonen animes. Like, obviously there's no problem with you liking that at all. Like, if anything, I'm jealous. I'm glad you can enjoy it. But the animes I really, really enjoy, like I think are the best, are Cowboy Bebop, Neon Genesis Evangelion, Serial Experiments Lane, Welcome to the NHK, and Ghost in the Shell standalone complex as well, and Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, which is probably the only shonen I actually enjoy. Death Note's fun, I guess, even though it is extremely flawed and stupid. What other good ones? Oh, Black Lagoon's pretty good as well. Boogie Pop Phantom's quite good. What other ones are there? See, it's hard. Hellsing Ultimate is a good time. I enjoy that a lot. I hated the ending though. I thought, oh shit, but overall very fun series. But yeah, for the most part, I don't really like anime. It's just not my vibe anymore. Oh, one really good anime is Infinite Revius. It's like Lord of the Flies in space with kids. That's one of the most underrated animes ever. That's actually one of the best in my opinion. It's so entertaining, and it's also just so obscure that you just can't help but love it. Jules Deleuze says, name, surname, age, employment situation, address. Just joking, lol. If you could make one drug legal ever in the world, which one would it be and why? That's got to be mushrooms, because they're already paving the way for therapeutic uses. So let's just get it done now. Actually, maybe no. No, actually, no. I don't. Maybe we're not ready for it. Like legally all over the entire world. Because if we are getting like seriously deep into this, we've got to be a bit rational and say that maybe it's not ready in a lot of countries, but in the more progressive like Western countries, probably is. But yeah, it's got to be cannabis, hasn't it? Because that will again pave the way for psychedelics in the future, and it'll give people more outlets to enjoy the time with, and they don't have to like get pissed up as much. So yeah, I think that should be decriminalised and legalised and regulated, because yeah, why the fuck not? Aaron77 asks, what do you do work/study wise? Or do you consider yourself more atheist, materialist, or religious or spiritual? Well, unfortunately, I don't work at the minute, because basically I worked for ages as a labourer and then a telehandler operator, or like They're like these massive forklifts on construction sites. And I did that for ages after leaving school because I just didn't want to go to uni. I applied to go loads, and I ended up going for like a week in 2019, and I just hated it. I went to do like film studies, and it was awful. So I just kept going back and forth between that, and then earlier this year I just had enough of doing like construction work. So I've been unemployed for a few months now, just literally living off savings, and that's why I've had so much time to make videos, because I've just not been working. And yeah, I do need to get a part-time job or something to hopefully complement YouTube if I start earning a bit more money off it. Obviously I'm not even in it for the money, it's just like an extra bonus for making something that I love. But no, I don't study anything. I just literally educate myself on life, really, and go on Skillshare and learn skills of my own. I definitely want to be... My goal for the future is just to like be my own boss and self-employed. My autistic, weird ADHD brain finds it very difficult working in like retail and just generally doing stuff that quote-unquote normies would do. Obviously nothing wrong with normies, but I'm very much neurodivergent, so I do struggle with work and keeping a clear head, and it really does depress me. So I'm just waiting right now to sort things out. I'll probably do it after Christmas, get like a delivery job and just have a bit of more money to do stuff with, and hopefully YouTube takes off one day and it becomes my career. He said, would you consider yourself more atheist, materialist, or religious or spiritual? Well, I used to be an atheist materialist before my massive ego death in the Brink of Insanity video that I shared, and ever since then, yeah, I've just been a spiritual but not religious in the dogmatic orthodox Christian religious sense, or Buddhist even. I like to think that with psychedelics you can transcend that and realise even more about reality than these religions point towards and hint at. Psychedelics have turned me into a very spiritual person. They brought me in tune with the idea of consciousness with a capital C and infinity, and reality being this giant sandbox game of oneness and eternal love that even manifests in the most twisted aspects, because it must do, because it's all love. I know a lot of what I say is very woo-woo, and I should talk about it more in the future, because I think it will fly over some people's heads.
Oh my god, I got COVID.
But yeah, basically all the ego deaths I've had, like, I've just veered more and more away from atheism and materialism. When I was an atheist, it was ridiculous for me to think, there could be a god, or there could be more to life than like physics and etc. And then the more ego deaths and mystical experiences I've had and looked into and just researched more about life, the universe and everything, I now could never go back to thinking that there is no god or higher being, or, well, not even higher being, just like higher universal consciousness than just this finite egoic consciousness. And also I can't see how I could just think in scientific or spiritual terms. I've got to like marry both of them to understand the true nature of reality, because it is paradoxical. The nature of infinity is paradox, and that's why human minds can't comprehend it and grasp it, because we're so stuck in this rational, logical, like, is it left-brained? I think it's left-brained that's more like drab and logical, when really we should be marrying both of them, much like how we should be marrying spirituality with science to understand more metaphysical aspects of life. Next question comes from, do you believe in UFOs and other paranormal phenomena, from Phaser Madre? For paranormal phenomena, I like to believe in it because I just think it's fun. I like to believe that Bigfoot is actually out there, and I do love watching all the videos and that, and they're pretty. Some of them, like the Patterson film of the Bigfoot, is quite convincing. Obviously you can say, it's a fucking hoax, it's just all marketing, it's just all a lie, and it's like, I completely see why people would think that. I just don't take it too seriously and get wound up about it like these hyperlogical, rational people do. I don't care if like it's true or false. I enjoy believing in paranormal phenomena. like telekinesis, which there is a lot more. There's more. Well, I completely like believe in UFOs and telekinesis. I mean, at the end of the day, like when you've had these mystical fucking experiences and psychedelics where the room melts around you and you're communicating with machine elves and go into these fucking other dimensions. I mean, just look at the mental trip reports I've been sharing. Like, there is no logical scientific explanation for this, so I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility for telekinesis to exist. You should check out the channel Red Panda Koala if you've not, because there's a lot of cool videos covering the Soviet telekinesis project with that Ninel woman, who is literally, there's videos of her doing it, and people in Russia completely believe it, and we're just so skeptical to like a fault in the West. And I'm like, actually, it cannot be proven with physics, therefore it must be false. But it's like, well, you take a fucking high dose of DMT and tell me that you can examine what's going on with physics, because you can't, because it's beyond science. Science is this finite material thing, and reality goes way deeper than materialism and physics. This is just one way that reality can exist. You can literally be a hyperdimensional entity and not need physics to exist. UFOs, yeah, I fully believe they've been, well, I don't even fully believe, I fully know that they've been around for fucking ages. There's far too much evidence coming out about UFOs now, and the Pentagon videos in 2018 just sort of cemented that. I don't think it is far-fetched to think that UFOs and aliens have been visiting us, but we just assume that we know the facts. Like, I don't know anything. I don't know the facts. I've never experienced an alien. I've never seen a UFO or anything. But for me, what matters is the amount of evidence there is out there, reportings. I think I'm going to start doing some like UFO reports. That'll be fun to talk about, or like Bigfoot sighting reports, just because they're more fun. And even if it's not true, then people just need to fucking chill out about it and stop arguing like, you're actually fucking delusional if you believe in UFOs. It's like, mate, you're delusional as fuck for taking science like as religion. So it just goes both ways, doesn't it? Yeah, so in short, I think there's too much evidence for UFOs now to dispute it, and you can find it everywhere. And at the end of the day, slowly but surely, the US government is accepting, well, not accepting, but it's confirming that they know of machinery from other worlds that we don't know of. I mean, it's coming out. It's going to come out even more. It's not going to stop, is it? So I think we'll find out a lot more in our lifetimes. Gandalf says, good job, when will you stop doing the whole pip pip cheerio accent thing? And I already replied saying,
when I remove my vocal cords, my friend.
Oh wait, that's it, that's the end, that's the last one. Thanks guys for asking me all these mental questions. I've absolutely loved doing this. I hope this hasn't been too annoying. Sometimes I find that I have an incoherent mode of thought when I'm doing unscripted videos. It annoys me, but hopefully it doesn't annoy you. It really is really quite touching and heartwarming that you all are interested in my personal life like this. The reason I don't make many personal life videos, or haven't been until recently, is just because I thought people were more interested in hearing these profound trip reports, which I love sharing because they're beautiful, and the people who make them are absolutely so talented and gifted the way they describe things. I would never take credit for their stories at all. I just want to share them with people because I think it's so important and aligns with my mission of enlightening people to higher truths and the deep nature and reality of consciousness and this world we're in. So yeah, it really means a lot that you guys have stuck around for all this time, and hope 2022 brings even better things for it, boys. Like, yeah, so I'm just going to wrap this up now, and I hope you all have a good day, and you've enjoyed watching this very long video. See you later, my lad.